Today I'll teach you how to export GridView to PDF and send in email in ASP.NET. So we'll start by adding a GridView control. And you can see I'm adding some colors to the GridView. This is because in this way I'll be able to illustrate to you how to export GridView which has colors to PDF and then send in email. So now coming back to the columns, I'm adding 3 fields. The first one is ID, the second one is name, and the third one is country. Below the grid view, I am adding a button which will be used to export the grid view to PDF. Now I'm going to the Web.Config file. Here I'm adding the mail settings which will be required for sending the email. So inside the system.net tag, I'm adding mail settings tag, inside which I'm adding SMTP tag. Here I'm setting the delivery method as network, and from will be the sender email address. Here I'm setting the host as gmail.com because in this example, I'll be making use of Gmail email address. For Gmail, the port number is 587 and the SSL setting is set to true. The username will be obviously the email address which is used in from address, and password will be the password of your mailbox. Here it will be the Gmail password or the two-step verification password. Finally, I'm setting the default credentials property to true. Now I'm going to the code behind. We'll start by adding some namespaces. Before moving ahead, I'm informing you that in order to export a GridView to PDF, you will need to install iTextSharp as well as iTextSharp XML worker, and you can download it from NuGet and install it in your project. So now let's move to the namespaces. The very first namespace is system.io, then system.data, then system.net, then system.net.mail. All this will be required for sending the email address. Then comes the iTextSharp namespaces, iTextSharp.text, iTextSharp.text.pdf, iTextSharp.tool.xml. Now the namespaces system.configuration and system.net.configuration for reading the mail settings from the mail settings in the web.config file. Now inside the page load event, we'll start writing the code to bind the grid view. I'll start by creating a data table object in which I am adding 3 columns, and these columns are having names similar to what I have specified in the data field for the grid view. Once the columns are defined, now I'll be adding some dummy values into the data table. And finally, I'll be binding this data table to the grid view. Now we'll start writing the event which will handle the grid view export as well as sending it to the email. So first we'll create an object of string writer class. Inside that we'll create an object of HTML text writer class. Then we will render the grid view control so that it is converted to HTML. Now we'll create an object of string reader class which will read the generated XML. Then we'll create a document object in which we'll specify the document size and also the margins. Then we'll create an object of memory stream class. Then we'll create an instance of PDF writer class. Then we'll open the PDF document and then we'll write the HTML using the parse XHTML method of the XML worker helper class. And finally, we'll close the PDF document. And then we'll convert the memory stream to a byte array. And then we'll close the memory stream. Now our PDF is ready for export. So we'll now write the code for sending the email. So very first thing, we'll read the mail settings from the Web.Config file. And then we'll create the mail message class object where we will specify the from and the receiver email address. Then we'll specify the subject and the body. And then in the attachments collection, we'll add the PDF byte array which we have generated using iTextSharp. We'll set the isBody HTML property to true. Then we'll create an object of SMTP client class where we will specify host, port number, enable SSL property, use default credentials, and also we'll specify the credentials which is the username and password. And finally, we will call the send method of the SMTP class which will ultimately send the email. Now here we'll have to override the verify rendering server form method because it is required as we are rendering the grid view to HTML. If this method is not specified, then it will create an exception. So in order to avoid that exception, we have to override this method and leave it empty. With this, we complete our programming part. Now let's move back to the ASPX page where we will specify the on-click event handler for the button. So now we can run our project and see it in action. As you can see, the grid view has been populated and we can see the colors in the grid view. Now I'll click on the export button and you can see I have received the email, and in the email I have the PDF document attached which has the grid view. So with this, we complete our programming part. Today we learned how to export grid view to PDF and also send it in email as an attachment using iTextSharp. So if you like this video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and please also click on the bell icon so that you receive notifications. Goodbye.